Let's be real. In 2025, attention isn't just affection, it's currency, it's power. And every time you chase, text first, double message, or try to fix things, you're handing that power away. You think persistence shows effort. You think being the good guy proves your value. But to her, it screams desperation, because the truth no one wants to admit is this: the more you give, the less she values it. Women today aren't starving for love, they're drowning in attention. Compliments, DMs, validation, it's everywhere. Every post gets hearts, every story gets replies. Every minute someone's telling her she's beautiful. So when you chase her, you're not special. You're background noise, but when you go quiet, that's when she notices. Because silence cuts through the noise like a knife. Ignoring isn't weakness, it's leverage. It flips the script. Suddenly, she's the one checking her phone, wondering what happened to your energy. She starts questioning herself. Did I do something wrong? Why isn't he reaching out? That confusion. That's power, and power is everything in modern dating. See, most men make the same mistake. They equate attention with connection. They think, if I show her how much I care, she'll choose me. But in reality, the more available you are, the less mysterious you become. And mystery, that's attraction fuel. You can't chase a woman into wanting you, you can only make her feel your absence. Because desire doesn't grow in comfort, it grows in uncertainty. When she knows you'll always be there, she relaxes. She stops investing. But when you step back, when your attention vanishes, her mind starts racing. And here's the twisted part. She might even tell you she wants a guy who communicates, who's emotionally available, who never plays games. But the second you become that guy, she loses interest. Because deep down, most people don't crave peace. They crave excitement. And in the modern dating world, excitement comes from unpredictability. Ignoring her isn't about manipulation. It's about reclaiming your focus. You stop making her the center of your universe and start becoming the prize again. Because the moment you pull your attention back, you force her to confront something terrifying. A world where she's no longer in control of your emotions. That's when everything shifts. She starts noticing you again. Your silence becomes louder than any text you could send. You stop chasing, and suddenly she's the one chasing closure, clarity, you. So stop thinking ignoring is cold or cruel. It's strategic. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the man who can stay silent becomes unforgettable. Because attention builds comfort, but silence builds obsession. And that's why ignoring works better than chasing, every single time. Let's get something straight. For most women today, attention is oxygen. It's not love they crave. It's not affection, it's validation. The constant reassurance that they're wanted, desired, and still in control. She doesn't wake up checking her phone for your good morning text because she loves you. She does it to make sure the world still revolves around her. Every like, every DM, every stare on the street. It's air to her lungs. And the second you take that away, she starts suffocating. That's the truth nobody says out loud. Because in 2025, attention isn't appreciation, it's addiction. Women have been conditioned to chase validation the way men chase ambition. Social media turned it into a full-time job. Selfies aren't just photos, they're fishing hooks. Every post screams, am I still relevant? Am I still desired? And every compliment, every fire emoji, every thirsty DM, it's dopamine. It's proof she still matters. So when you ignore her, when you don't bite the bait, when you don't feed the cycle, she panics. Because you just took away her fix. You just cut off her oxygen supply. She'll test you. She'll post thirst traps. She'll suddenly like your old stories or text something random just to see if you'll react. That's not love. That's withdrawal. That's the ego gasping for air. The more attention you gave her before, the stronger the addiction becomes. Because to her, your validation became routine, like breathing. But the moment you stop, the silence hits harder than any breakup ever could. And that's when the power shifts. You see, ignoring her doesn't just make you mysterious. It makes her question her worth. Why isn't he chasing? Did I lose my touch? Is he talking to someone else? Now she's the one spiraling. Now she's the one feeling the pressure to prove her value again. And that's the twisted beauty of it. By doing nothing, you make the biggest impact. Because women like this don't fear rejection, they fear irrelevance. They can handle being argued with, they can handle distance, they can even handle breakups. But being ignored? That hits different. That's emotional starvation. When you ignore her, you're not being cruel, you're holding a mirror to her dependency. You're forcing her to face the emptiness behind all the validation she chases. She'll start realizing that no amount of likes or attention can fill the silence you left behind. And here's the crazy part, she'll respect you more for it. Because deep down, she doesn't want another fan. She wants a man whose attention means something. And the less you give it, the more valuable it becomes. Attention is her oxygen, so when you take it away, she has two choices: evolve or suffocate. Either way, you win. Because the moment you stop feeding her ego, you start feeding your power. Silence. It's the loudest weapon you'll ever have. See, men today talk too much. They beg, they explain, they chase. They pour out essays trying to fix things with someone who already made up her mind. But here's the truth. When you stop talking, when you go quiet, when you let silence do the speaking, it drives her insane. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's power. When you argue, you give her control. When you chase, you give her attention. But when you go silent, you take both away. You create a void, and the human mind can't stand a void. She starts replaying everything, every word, every mistake, every text she didn't reply to. You live rent-free in her head without saying a single word. That's the psychology of silence. It makes her confront the version of you that she can't manipulate. Silence is scarcity, and scarcity creates value. When your attention becomes rare, it becomes precious. And the second she realizes you're not available on command, that you're not reacting, that you're not waiting around for crumbs, she starts craving the one thing she thought she could control: your attention. This is where the game flips. Because most guys think power comes from dominance, from being louder, from trying to prove their worth. But real power? It's quiet. It's when you don't explain, you don't defend, you don't justify. You just vanish. And that absence starts echoing louder than any argument ever could. Here's the brutal truth. She's not used to silence. She's used to being chased. She's used to men competing for her attention, blowing up her phone, trying to fix things she broke. Silence interrupts that conditioning. It scrambles the pattern. Suddenly, she's not in control anymore. You're not reacting, and that terrifies her. Because silence makes her face her own reflection, it forces her to realize that she doesn't hold the same power she thought she did. When you say nothing, you give her nothing to twist, nothing to use, nothing to feed off of. She starts imagining scenarios in her head. Is he done? Is he with someone else? Does he not care anymore? And that overthinking, that's the same pain she once caused you. It's poetic justice, emotional balance through restraint. Begging shows weakness, explaining shows neediness. But silence shows control. It says, I don't need to prove my worth to you. You'll remember it on your own, and she will. Because silence lingers, it haunts her in the quiet moments. It forces her to feel the absence of the attention she once took for granted. You don't win by saying more, you win by saying nothing. Silence isn't passive. It's a psychological storm. And once you master it, you'll never chase validation again. Because while she's out there talking, posting, performing, you're doing the one thing that terrifies her most: disappearing. And nothing screams power louder than a man who no longer needs to speak to be heard. Let me say something that most men don't want to hear. Being too available is the fastest way to make her lose interest in you. It doesn't matter how good you look, how funny you are, or how much potential you've got. If she feels like she can have you anytime she wants, she won't want you at all. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Women don't chase what's easy, they chase what feels earned. And when you're always there, replying instantly, dropping everything to see her, rearranging your life for her convenience, you stop being a man of value and start being an option. You become predictable. And predictable is boring. Modern dating has twisted men into believing that consistency means being constantly available. That if you're always there, she'll appreciate you more. But she won't. She'll test you more. Because subconsciously, she's trying to figure out if you're a man who leads his life, or one who drops everything just to orbit hers. That's where the tests come in, the late replies, the cancelled plans, the random distance out of nowhere. Those aren't accidents, they're signals. She's not just testing your patience, she's testing your self-respect. Will you panic when she pulls away? Will you start double texting? Will you beg for her attention again? The moment you do, game over, because in her mind, you just proved that your world revolves around her. And the second she knows that, you stop being mysterious, you stop being a challenge, you stop being a man she respects. That's the cruel paradox. The more available you are, the less valuable you become. Women are drawn to emotional contrast. They crave the highs and lows, the tension, the uncertainty. It's what keeps the spark alive. And when you're too available, you remove that contrast. You flatten the emotional experience. You become safe, and safe is one step away from forgettable. You think being kind and consistent will make her see your worth. But attraction doesn't work like that. Attraction lives in the unknown, in the space between messages, in the moments where she wonders what you're doing, in the silence where she questions if she still has your attention. When you're too available, you rob her of that curiosity. And here's what most men never realize: distance isn't rejection, it's a test. She's seeing if you can stand your ground, if you can handle her unpredictability without losing your center. Reacting kills attraction, restraint builds it. You win by doing less, by not chasing when she pulls away, by letting her feel the silence and wonder why you're not chasing her like everyone else. When you stop being too available, you stop being replaceable, because here's the truth: a man who's always there loses his mystery. But a man who can walk away without explanation, that's the one she can't forget. So next time she pulls back, don't chase. Smile. Wait. Let her come to you. Because nothing's more attractive than a man who doesn't beg for attention. He commands it through his absence. You want to know what really drives a woman crazy? It's not your looks. It's not your money. It's your silence. Because when you go quiet, when you stop feeding her that endless stream of validation, that constant attention she's grown addicted to, something terrifying happens in her mind. The control shifts. At first, she pretends not to care. She'll act unbothered. She'll post that perfectly crafted selfie. The caption? Something like healing or protecting my peace. But make no mistake, it's bait. She's not healing. She's fishing. Fishing for your reaction. Because silence does something attention never could. It creates doubt, and doubt is poison to the female ego. See, when she's used to you chasing, texting first, double-checking if she's okay, she feels safe, in control. But the second you stop, her entire mental framework collapses. She starts asking questions she's not ready to face. Why isn't he texting me? Did he find someone else? Was I not enough? That's when the confusion sets in, the ego gets bruised, the illusion cracks. Because deep down, she thought she had you wrapped around her finger, and your silence just proved she didn't. At first, she'll tell herself she doesn't care. Then she'll start checking your story a little too often. Then she'll scroll your page late at night, wondering who that new follower is. That's how curiosity starts eating her alive. You see, silence doesn't just remove attention, it amplifies imagination. And imagination is far more powerful than words. When you're silent, she fills in the blanks. And the human mind always imagines something worse than reality. She starts thinking you're moving on, that you've detached, that you no longer need her. And for someone who once lived off your attention, that realization cuts deep. Now the roles reverse. The same woman who used to ignore your texts, she's suddenly checking in. The same woman who once said she needed space, she's now missing the old you. The one who told you she wasn't ready for a relationship, she's suddenly wondering why you don't chase her anymore. That's the emotional reversal. Your silence exposes her dependency on your validation. It reveals what she never wanted to admit, that she wasn't just enjoying your attention, she was addicted to it. And like any addiction, withdrawal hurts. The silence becomes unbearable. The control she thought she had turns into desperation, You went from being the one waiting for her to text to being the one she can't stop thinking about. That's the power of silence. It's not passive, it's psychological warfare. It flips the script. It makes her realize that she never had the upper hand, she just had your attention. And once that's gone, she starts chasing it back. Not because she suddenly loves you, but because she can't stand losing the spotlight. That's when you've won. Not by saying a word, but by saying nothing at all. Let's get real. Most men think they're playing it cool. They think they're mastering the art of silence. But in reality, they're sabotaging themselves before the game even begins. You want to know why ignoring doesn't work for most guys? Because they don't actually mean it. They're not calm, they're not detached. They're emotionally spiraling while pretending to be unbothered, and women can smell that fake detachment from a mile away. Let's break it down. These are the top mistakes that destroy your power the second you try to go silent. Mistake number 1, breaking the silence too early. You go quiet for 2 days. You think you're being strong. Then she posts a thirst trap, and suddenly your thumbs betray you. Hey, how have you been? Boom, power gone, respect gone, attraction dead. Because what you just told her, without saying it, is that you were waiting. Waiting for her to miss you. Waiting for permission to care again. You didn't move on. You paused your life hoping she'd notice. Women don't respect that. They sense desperation under every emoji, every just checking in, every weak attempt at re-entry. You have to understand, silence only works when it's real. Not a tactic, not a trick, real. You stop giving her attention not to get her back, but because you've outgrown the need to chase validation. Mistake number 2, emotional texting. This one ruins everything. The long paragraphs, the "I just needed closure," the "I don't understand what went wrong." She's not reading those with empathy, she's reading them with power, because every emotional message reminds her that you're still emotionally invested, and she's still in control. Silence isn't just about not speaking. It's about emotional restraint. It's about being unshakable while she tests you, ignores you, or tries to bait you. If you break and send that emotional text, you've handed her your control on a silver platter. Mistake number 3, fake indifference. Let's talk about the "I don't care" act. The guys who block her, post cryptic stories, or start flirting publicly just to prove a point. That's not confidence, that's performance. And here's the truth. When you perform indifference, it's because you still care. You're still trying to show her something. Real detachment doesn't broadcast itself. It moves in silence. It doesn't post quotes. It doesn't make her jealous. It simply disappears. And that disappearance, that quiet absence, does what no argument ever could. It makes her wonder. But when you fake it, you break the illusion. You remind her that she still has emotional real estate in your head. So here's the brutal truth. Ignoring only works when you mean it. You can't weaponize silence if your mind is still loud. You can't gain respect while begging for it in disguise. The power of ignoring isn't in pretending not to care, it's in actually not caring. Because once your silence is real, once your peace isn't performative, that's when she finally feels your absence. And trust me, that's when she starts chasing it.